Hey everybody, welcome to NFL Fantasy Live, presented by EA Sports, Madden NFL 22. Patrick Claybon, glad to be here with Cynthia Freeland and Adam Rank on a day where we're thinking about the Milk Crate Challenge. Cynthia, is it a fun way to end a fantasy season for a loser, or perhaps too dangerous for us to even discuss on television?
I think it's a fun way to end the fantasy season because I think a lot of people have that good health insurance, just like he mentioned. So I'm going with that. Fun.
Yeah, if there's one thing America is known for, it's our great healthcare system. So why not go out and do this? But of course, as a fan of professional wrestling, who's watching guys like Darby Allin take sick falls like this, I say I want more of it.
I didn't know you were a fan of professional wrestling.
Newsflash, everybody. I do want everybody to be safe. One safe thing you can do is sign up for a free fantasy league today at NFL.com/fantasy or by downloading the NFL Fantasy app. No insurance required at all. It's time for us to get some MVP picks presented by Visa, a network working to support MVPs on and off the field. Spoiler alert, everyone. We're giving you the fantasy MVPs at quarterback in August, so take note. Adam Rank, who takes the belt?
You know what? I'm going to go with Tom Brady, which I know seems like kind of an obvious pick because as the NFL Top 100 list winds its way down, I'm expecting him to be the number one on that list, even though Aaron Donald might have a claim to that as well. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about fantasy football. And really, at the end of last season, outside of Patrick Mahomes, there was not a better quarterback in fantasy. And of course, you can point back to that huge game against the Detroit Lions in the fantasy championship to help, push those point totals forward. But I think with a full offseason in Bruce Arians' system, with a full complement, a full season of these offensive weapons, I think that Tom Brady picks right up where he left off last year and does it. And by the way, his ADP is ridiculous. Like, nobody wants to draft this guy for whatever reason. He's like free money in the 10th round.
Well, ADP is exactly why I'm picking Josh Allen to be my fantasy MVP, because he's not actually being too overdrafted, which means good value, which means you have a strong team overall. What do I like about Josh Allen? Well, they throw the ball the most on first down last season. That would be the Bills. I think that trend, or a lot of throws, for example, is the trend to follow on this one. I think Josh Allen also gives you all of that upside in terms of, scoring those rushing touchdowns, which is kind of important if you want to win your league.
Yeah, super important, which is why I'm taking another quarterback from the same draft class, Cynthia, and that's one Lamar Jackson. And that's for all the reasons that we think certain guys will be successful multiple years in the same offense, more weapons around him. These all apply to Lamar as well. He's had 26 or more passing touchdowns in 2 straight seasons. All the success, all the changes that they've made on the offense. There's no need to apply this idea of, well, there's more tape on him now. There's been tape the whole time. Tape exists. It's something that coaches watch, and Lamar has been successful despite all of that. And yeah, you're going to have to pay a price, but ultimately I believe that price, in terms of where you draft Lamar, is probably going to be worth it. That takes us to running backs now. Who is the most valuable running back come season's end, Cynthia?
Well, let's go with the most obvious choice. That would be Christian McCaffrey. It's all about getting Sam Darnold to be most efficient and kind of figuring out this offense as a whole. And you know what Joe Brady likes to do? He likes to craft the right responses, meaning give that running back option to Sam Darnold. Also, Christian McCaffrey happens to be the guy who had the most touches in the league 2 seasons ago. So this is one of those most important picks in your entire league. So just take the easy one. What does it, Marcus, say? The low-hanging fruit still tastes the same, something like that. Something like good fruit, low-hanging, whatever. Take him.
Yeah, I like fruit wherever I can get it. In terms of the same division, I'm going to keep banging the Alvin Kamara drum, Cynthia, because if the uncertainty in the 504 scares you, right? If you're worried about things that you don't know, why not lean on the only constant and consistent skill guy on this offense the last few years? I think there's an easy case to make Kamara first overall. I will gladly take him at his current ADP. And he's got his own cereal line as well now. The guy's selling cereal, candy as well. He's doing everything. Right.
No,
where are we going?
Both of those players do everything, but I am not going to take the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to get out the step ladder, even though my family advises me against it. And I'm going to climb up there, and I'm going to take Antonio Gibson, a player that Ron Rivera has called his version of Christian McCaffrey. And one of the things I always like to do is to try to look forward. And coming into last season, Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver at Memphis. The FT used him at the running back position. He had to learn it on the fly during the COVID abbreviated offseason and went out there and was pretty good. He was one of the top running backs when he was available right there in the middle of the season before he went out with his turf toe injury. But now that he's fully healthy and ready to go, I look for him to take the step forward this season. And I notice his ADP is still right there in the second round. There is going to be somebody in your draft who is going to be very happy because they're going to get a stud in the first round. They're going to get Antonio Gibson in the second round. He's going to end up being the RB2, and he's going to take you to a championship.
A championship that people appreciate, and that's fruit up there. You have to use ladders and climb on top of people, scratch
Not
and claw
stacking
to win a
crates.
championship. Yes, the crates. Maybe get some friends to hold the crates as well. Coming up next here, which hands are ready to break out and help you get your hands on a fantasy championship? We look at the top guys when NFL Fantasy Live, presented by EA Sports, Madden NFL 22 returns.
Mahomes takes the snap, pressured, fires it Mike.
And guess who? Michael Thomas. You can't guard Mike.
Perfect throw from Lamar Jackson.
It'll make the catch.
Feels great, baby. George Kittle. McCaffrey takes it home. A lightning bolt.
Saquon Barkley, he's fun to watch when you give him a crease.
With the spin.
Maybe the best play yet. Step on command. What a run. Dive for the end zone across the goal line. Boom.
Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Live, presented by EA Sports, Madden NFL 22. A friendly reminder to sign up for your free fantasy league today at nfl.com/fantasy or by downloading the NFL Fantasy app. Now let's look at unexpected performance, presented by EA Sports, Madden NFL 22. Today we will feature breakout wideouts for the fantasy season. Rank, lead us off with your unexpected surprise breakout performance.
Surprise! I'm going to go with T. Higgins. A player that I really loved going into last year's draft, landed in a pretty good situation in Cincinnati in the fact that they always have to throw the football. And I know a lot of people were concerned, I should say, when Jamar Chase was selected in the first round this season, assuming that T. Higgins was no longer good at football and no longer going to have a role on this team. But I think it actually works out to his benefit. I think with Tyler Boyd out there and Jamar Chase, being a person that people will be looking at, I think this has allowed T to just kind of fly under the radar, and I expect him to be the number one receiver for the Bengals, and I expect him to be right there near the top 5 of all fantasy receivers.
So when I expect, or what I think about with expectations, is where I draft them versus to relative to their performance. And DJ Moore isn't getting enough love. We do talk about Christian McCaffrey a ton, and for a good reason, but this whole offense is set for a big uptick in value. Passing value is included in that, especially those deep gashes that Sam Darnold is capable of doing. So when I look at DJ Moore, I think this is a guy who's in a great position. I know people think, oh, this that other guy, Robbie, who he played with before, narrative, but I think Joe Brady will want to get the most out of all of his receivers, and Moore's the guy who earns those yards after contact and those tight receptions. So this is an opportunity for him to take a huge step forward for your fantasy value this season.
Yeah, you want to talk about a huge step forward. Henry Ruggs currently going in the 130s in drafts on NFL.com. What a story it would be for him to be in the top 20 in 2022. We saw it in flashes in 2020, like this game. In week 3, he torched KC's secondary, and then we never really got that kind of consistency and outcomes between he and Derek Carr. Now Nelson Aguilar's targets are gone. He's in New England. The role changes slightly. Perhaps it changes bigly. I foresee a breakout. Why not take a risk? Why not take a shot on Henry Ruggs? All right, let's focus over here on some do's and don'ts for your drafts when it comes to your basic redraft leagues. Rank, what are the top do's and don'ts for fantasy managers this year?
Well, one thing I would ask everybody to do is to buy in on a veteran receiver. People are dismissing them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you see me walk through a clubhouse wearing a shirt like this. You're like, this guy can't play golf. Then I'm out there piping 300-yard drives, and who's getting the last lap? And I think similarly, people are looking dismissively towards some of these veteran wide receivers. They love drafting the rookies and everything like that, but there are some really good ones out there. We've seen Robbie Anderson step up in the last couple of years, especially this season with Sam Darnold. Corey Davis has run 13 routes this preseason. He's had 10 targets. That's an insane production value. And Marvin Jones Jr. is another guy. Trevor Lawrence, we're going to see him tonight. He's going to target him an awful lot. And then last year, one of the don'ts that I would tell people, don't worry too much about what happened in last year's playoffs. And I think the most glaring example is Cam Akers. His ADP before his injury was out of control based on 3 games in the playoffs. And we kind of ignored what Darrell Henderson did through the majority of last season. So when you're doing your draft, like, project people who are going to be good this season, and then don't worry about a pop in 3 games. And then what I guess I'm basically saying is draft Darrell Henderson. That is my, so don't ignore, sorry, this is a don't. Don't ignore Darrell Henderson, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay, so when I look at the do's and the don'ts, I pretty much just try to follow what's going on in the league. And what's going on in the league is that these top end tight ends, the guys who catch passes, they're really separating themselves from the other tight ends when it comes to figuring out who has the most value and who don't. So the do is to get your tight end, even if it feels early, even if it feels first round early, because the later guys are really not going to help you out. Now, for my don't overdraft your quarterback. When it comes to quarterback play, yes, quarterbacks are the most valuable position. Yes, this is turning into a very heavy passing league. Every year we see an uptick in passing, but they don't really separate themselves in terms of the number of points the quarterbacks get. So you don't need to go early. Go get those tight ends, go get those running backs, go get those veteran wide receivers, and then get your quarterback in a little bit later round.
All right, let's change the methodology then. Let's talk about startup dynasty leagues. You get deeper teams. In most cases, you get to keep your whole roster from year to year. Rank, give us a do and a don't.
My biggest do is to target Kyle Pitts in a dynasty league. Obviously, you're going to want a quarterback first and foremost. And I did a recent dynasty startup, got a quarterback. I got Justin Herbert out of the way, and it's a super flex league. I still took Kyle Pitts. And the reason is what Cynthia was talking about, is how valuable the tight end position is. And if Kyle Pitts projects to be the player that we expect him to be, well, imagine getting in on the ground floor of Travis Kelce and never having to give him up. That's why I would target him immediately. But at the same time, my biggest don't is don't forget about winning this year. Too many times people get enamored with rookies and they want to project for their 2025 rosters. They're massaging things around. It's like, well, why burn 2021? Why not try to go out there and field a competitive team that can win this season, which goes back to a previous point I was making. That's when you can go out and get a lot of veteran players, make a push for this year. Just make sure you have some young guys for the future.
Okay, so my do actually falls in line with what Rank was saying before is about these rookies. But I'm not talking about Kyle Pitts because we already know he's going to be a starter, but look to your later rounds of your draft to get one of these rookies who might not be a day one starter, like a quarterback, and then you could potentially use him in future years, like maybe Justin Fields. Rank, that one's for you. But ultimately, getting those rookies early so that you can hang on to them, like you said, buying in on the ground floor. And then to me, don't be too in love with wide receivers too soon, because let's face it, this league with all the passing, the wide receivers in the middle kind of don't differentiate, just like I said about the quarterbacks. So when it comes to wide receivers, don't fall in love with one, fall in love with the projection and kind of see where it ranks in there.
Yeah, and fall in love with your first-round quarterback. I love the legitimate smile, the beaming upon the mention of Justin Fields from Adam Rank. Here's a do. Do listen to Cynthia and Adam. Don't leave yet because we're running through the best offenses in the league. Maybe those of you who believe in stacking, take note what pieces we're taking from some of the most star-studded lineups and when we're taking them. Next on NFL Fantasy Live, presented by Madden NFL 22.
This is officially the Mahomes era.
Mahomes fires for the end zone. Touchdown! Kansas City!
13 in 3 weeks. He's looking to the left side. He throws it left-handed to Tyreek Hill. Batman's left-handed. Throw it long. Tyreek Hill's wide open. Nobody is within the boundaries of California.
Look at the magic as the quarterback throws it like almost no look.
Patrick Mahomes now has hit 5,000 yards passing and 50 touchdowns.
And a chant of MVP, and he certainly has been every bit of that.
Welcome back to NFL Fantasy Live, presented by EA Sports, Madden NFL 22. And Patrick Mahomes is the consensus QB1 off the draft board in most leagues again this season. And he helps us kick off going strong, presented by Castrol Edge. Let's each give an offense that we want the most fantasy stock in this season. Cynthia, make a case of Chiefs that you want and when you want them.
Well, the Chiefs here's what you're going to think. If when in doubt, take a Chief. Like if someone's near there and you don't know, just take a Chief. Start with Travis Kelce, and you can actually take him in round 1. It's all about opportunity cost, and remember that opportunity cost, you take a top tier tight end, it's not going to be there in later rounds, so go ahead and get you some Kelce and be happy with how that turns out. Then I'm looking at Tyreek Hill in the second round. Right now, he's going early in the second round. Maybe you can snag him a little bit later. It's all about those deep passes, deep receptions, and red zone targets. Always Tyreek Hill for that. Then I'm going to look into Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's going a little higher now, but he did have a bit of an injury in this preseason game. I think it's a faux preseason injury, so maybe you could get him in a little bit later round as they sort of rest him ahead of the season. And then, of course, you got Patrick Mahomes. If for some reason he lasts past the third round, just take him and you're going to be totally fine. It's probably not going to happen for you, though. But you could potentially, in like round 9 or 10, get Mecole Hardman. I like deep reception guys, and that's what Mecole's doing. He's also really, really fast. So take you some Hardman. And again, when in doubt, take a Chief.
Yeah, it's a safe option to just grab a Chief. But Rank, is there a team that perhaps we're not necessarily thinking of for this exercise?
I don't think anybody's thinking of this team, quite frankly, and it's going to be the New York Jets. And this is more of a thrift store option, which is where I got this shirt. Actually, it's not. This was my dad's shirt. Actually, still smells like Pall Malls. But anyways, here's my thing. I like the Jets because they're a great value. And Michael Carter is somebody who jumps to mind, whose ADP, as we're talking right now, it's probably still plummeting because we didn't see a lot of him running with the ones over the weekend. And that actually works to our benefit because when you're drafting these running backs, you want to be taking people who are going to finish strong as opposed to somebody who's going to be there week 1. It doesn't matter, but look at like what Jonathan Taylor did last year. Michael Carter could do the same thing. Corey Davis is another player who I really like this season. I talked about his targets earlier in the show. I think it's important to notice that Zach Wilson really loves him. So Corey Davis has been a player that I like. And I play in a lot of super flex leagues, which means 2 quarterbacks. I love taking Zach Wilson. And if I'm taking Zach Wilson, I'm also going to take Elijah Moore. Both of these players are currently free. Nobody wants to touch Elijah Moore because he's been battling a quad injury. And nobody likes Zach Wilson because it's the Jets. I don't know. It's a thing. I don't know, like Sam Darnold, Mark Sanchez, all these quarterbacks of the past have clouded people's judgment. And even me, coming into this season, I wasn't quite sold on Zach Wilson, but I've really liked his poise over those first 2 preseason games. And I think he's got a huge opportunity with a team that we expect to throw the ball an awful lot.
Yeah, they certainly might put themselves in situations where they need to throw the ball. For me, I want all Packers all the time, and it starts with Devontae Adams in round 1 because I think it's the clearest path to league-wide wide receiver 1 that you can make. I think he's clearly and easily the first wideout off the board to me. And then there's a case to be made after that if you're at pick 9, 10, and 11 to be made for Aaron Jones, depending on how the board shakes out in front of you to go in the first round as well. For the same reason, the team's going to score a lot of points. They're going to be scoring opportunities, and people let Jamal Williams run them off of Aaron Jones. I don't know why A.J. Dillon does the same thing. And also, give me Aaron Rodgers all day. Round 8, 9 plus if he makes it that far because he's Aaron Rodgers. And I set him at the top of my roster, and I don't think about it for the rest of the season. And I might not have to overpay like I will, as Cynthia mentioned, for Patrick Mahomes or for Lamar Jackson. I can have A-Raj and be safe and happy, thinking about him being mad and wanting to score a lot of points to smite those who might have questioned his ability to play football. Don't question us, because we'll be back. That's all the time we've got for today. We've got 2 more shows, Wednesday and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern right here on NFL.com, and your NFL apps as well, as we continue the roster building advice for the year ahead. For Cynthia Freeland and Adam Rank, I'm Patrick Claybon. We'll see you Wednesday.